In the last issue, the Living Pharaoh was wreaking havoc on Alex Summers, Scott's little brother. Do the X-Men get the W, or is it curtains for baby Summers? Let's find out on the 56th issue of Tommy Reads X-Men. Let's roll that intro. Tommy Reads X-Men, Tommy Reads X-Men, it's cool. What's going on, y'all? It's your boy back at you again with another Tommy Reads X-Men. The show, if you're new to the channel, in which I read each issue of X-Men and give my own unique spin on it. Today, we are looking at X-Men number 56 from May 1969, written by Roy Thomas with art by Warner Roth. This is called, What is the Power? The issue picks up seemingly where we left off, with the X-Men having defeated the Living Pharaoh. Now, for some reason, the X-Men are flying around, I'm going to call it Egypt. They don't say it's Egypt, but, you know, there's a bunch of pyramids and whatever. And they're flying around there in some weird rocket, car. If it's kind of like the one, if you know your comics, that the Fantastic Four ride around in, like the Fantastic Car, I think it might be called. I could be wrong. Leave a comment there to correct your boy if you need to, because I'm not the biggest Fantastic Four fan. So the X-Men are cruising around in this rocket car or whatever. The Living Pharaoh's their prisoner. Now Alex is with them. He's Havoc, but they don't call him that. Anyway, so he's freaked out about his powers. He don't want anybody to kind of get near him. He's scared about it. And then the Living Pharaoh's we could probably turn right here. And for some reason they go and follow his plan to get out, thinking they're going to get out. Why would he lead you out? He's leading you into a trap, and that's exactly what he does. He leads him right into a trap. This Sphinx thing opens up kind of Trojan horse style, and all the henchmen pop out, and it's the X-Men and Alex versus the henchmen. Normally the X-Men would be doing great, and they'd be all quippy, hey lad, what are we gonna do after this? Go get a malt at Pop Tate's? Anyway, but this time they were caught by surprise. So the Living Pharaoh gets freed by the henchmen, he re-kidnaps Alex, and then they take off in a second flying car. They just got these lying around and stuff everywhere. They're just parked there. Anyway, so they get off way in a little flying car, and Cyclops is what does this dude got against my brother? What did he beat him in a poker game, or did he steal his girl? Mr. Steal Your Girl. What's the deal? And we're wondering that too. Now Angel starts following him. He's flying after the, rocket car or whatever, and they start shooting a bunch of missiles at him. One actually hits him. Now, how he didn't blow up into smithereens or whatever, is beyond me. But he gets hit with the missile, it explodes near him, and he's falling, and the X-Men could not care less. Why? Because on the ground, some weird piece of debris almost hit Jean as she fell down, and literally the whole team is oh my gosh, Jeannie! They don't call her Marvel Girl, forget code names around here. Oh, Jeannie, are you okay? And she's yeah, I'm good. Oh wait, Angel's almost dead. And so then he quickly recovers, thanks to the X-Men, and he follows them to a second pyramid, where they have another layer going or whatever, and then Jean's psychically tracking Angel. Now the Living Pharaoh hooks Alex Summers up to some weird hyperbaric chamber. Think well, if you're from the 80s like me, the tabloids used to have Michael Jackson sleeping in one of these things. Think that, a big old glass tube. And then he starts monologuing. He goes on a 2-page monologue about how he is an archaeologist and a mutant, and he and Alex are opposites, and he can drain his power, and then it'll be his power for why? For why? They don't ever explain it other than oh yeah, you guys are opposites. And then he does it. He starts draining the power out of him, and he's I feel my power rising. And then Alex is in the thing what's this guy's deal? The X-Men show up, and they're dang, there's a whole separate pyramid here. How big is this thing? And no sooner do they do that and start quipping with each other, then ba-boom! The thing explodes, and a giant version of the Living Pharaoh comes out, but he's not the Living Pharaoh anymore. He is now transformed into the Living Monolith. Now there's a name I recognize. Now the Living Monolith, in case you were wondering, is a villain who's been out throughout Marvel Comics, starting from, I guess, right here. And later on, he'd be a villain who fought the X-Men again multiple times. He was also a Fantastic Four villain, and he tangled with Spider-Man a few times too. So, I mean, just reading comics casually growing up, I knew that name. And I think I had his Marvel card. Remember those? I wish I had mines now. The Living Monolith starts battling the X-Men, and they're tussling. And he's actually doing a really good job against all 5 X-Men. Like, they're having a tough time with him. Meanwhile, Alex, who got knocked out from the power being drained from him, suddenly wakes up like, oh, I'm still in the chamber. And it's mimes. Anyway, and he's like, I'm still in the chamber. And then he's like, he can't have drained all the power. I'd be dead, right? I mean, it's got to be a little bit. So he starts like concentrating or whatever, and he's like psyching himself up. Like, he's like Hulk Hoganing up, you know what I mean? Like, you! He's psyching himself up, and the Living Monolith somehow reacts to that. He was giant, like a Statue of Liberty giant before, and shrinking back to normal, and Alex bursts out of the hyperbaric chamber, and he wants to join the fight. The X-Men are like, are you okay? And he's like, don't come near me. Don't come near me. I'm unstable. Which is what he did last issue too. End of main story, which ended just the way it did last month. Let's get to the backup. The backup story, as we continue Angel's origin, is called The Flying A-Bomb. Aren't they all flying, though? Like, you're dropping bombs, right, son? Now, this part picks up where we left off last issue, with Angel's swinging bachelor pad invaded by Cyclops and Iceman, and they're like, join the X-Men. And he's like, oh, no, I'm good. And then they start fighting and stuff like that. Now, he turns them down, but the backup plan, I don't know if this Papa Chuck's doing, the backup plan was to kidnap him. Like, they're like, let's just grab him and convince him later. Like, how is that gonna work? The X-Men mentioned like, oh, we're holding back against this lad or whatever, but like Angel's putting some hands on him, and you know, they're tussling or whatever, and they knock some vial that he had grabbed last issue from some bad guys, and he's got this little vial, and he's like, oh, this is radioactive, and why is it glowing? And then Charles finally steps in. And Papa Chuck's like, yo, that thing you grabbed is going to explode. You need to get it the heck out of here, out of this swinging bachelor pad. And that is a dope color TV if you want to bring that with. Anyway, and so he's like, shoots up in the air. He goes damn near to space, tosses it up, and it deactivates the vial. And when he comes back down, Papa Chuck's still in his head, and he's been working on him the whole time. And he's like, join the X-Men. Come on, man. You know you'd be cooler if you did. And he's like, oh, all right, well, I guess I'm an X-Men now. End of backup story. That was easy. Let's hit you with some final thoughts. All right, y'all, I'm going to give this one about a 7.5 out of 10. And I'm going to tell you why. Because it was a fun story, both of them. I mean, the backup story was nothing to write home about. We got to where we needed to go with Angel on the team. But it was still fun, and I do enjoy Angel. Like, I think what sold me on these stories was that we're getting the origins of 2 characters I already like, which is Angel. Particularly, I like Archangel or Archangel, whatever you call him. As you can see from the Marvel Legend figure back there behind me. And I do like Havoc. I don't have a Marvel Legend of him yet. We get both of those stories, which is cool. The action was decent. I mean, like I said, the backup story was nothing to write home about, but, you know, I still enjoyed it way more than Beast. And Beast wasn't featured too much in this issue, which is always a great thing because he's kind of a jerk. Anyway, a fun read, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next issue. And we will check that out in the next Tommy Reads X-Men. If you like what you see or are mildly entertained, please like and subscribe down here. Hit that bell notification. I think it's somewhere in the corner over here. I don't know exactly where. And do your boy a solid. Help spread the word about the Tommy Loves Stuff channel, YouTube's best kept secret. We got a lot of great stuff on this channel. Check the playlist for more Tommy Reads X-Men. If you like food reviews, we have the ChubCon playlist. And we're coming up with another issue soon. Until then, thank you for letting me entertain you. Later. X-Men mentioned like, oh, we're holding back against this lad or whatever, but like Angel's putting some hands on him. Like he's beating 2 dudes. That sounded wrong.